Hey guys, what's up? It's been a while. Man, I've been busy, working and tending the house and tending the property and stuff, so just hadn't hardly had time to get any videos done. I'm so sorry about that. Well, we have something to work on again. It's our old friend, the 86 Chevy C20. Before we get into that, I'm just going to give you a quick walk around the yard and tell you how things are going here these days. Nothing too awful interesting, but it is the very end of September. And so far, the hot weather has still remained here with us. It's still about 90 today, 91, something like that. So it's still hot here, even though it's officially fall. It is still hot. I have my wood stacked. I think I'm going to go get some more wood, actually. I don't know if this is going to be enough. This is more than I used last year, or more than I had, rather. But the hummingbirds have mostly departed. There's still a couple around. You can see them there. But I'm down to 2 feeders, and instead of having to fill 3 or 4 feeders a day completely, those I hadn't had to even fill those for several days. So I think there's about 3 or 4 total around here now, hummingbirds. But they're maybe just passing through, and they're going to leave here. I'd say this week they'll all be gone. So that's that. And then the regular birds. The regular birds, just in other words, anything but hummingbirds, they've been kind of scarce lately because it's been so dry here. I think they've mostly been hanging around where there's plenty of water. So there's not been many of those, but I've got my feeders all ready to go. And because what's going to happen is in about the next 2 weeks, the temperature is going to nosedive here. Our temperature changes are like flipping a switch. One day it'll be 90, the next day it'll be 70, and then it never comes back to anywhere near 90. And same in the summertime, in the spring, it'll be about 60, and then the next day it's about 75, and that's it. The temperature has changed. So I've kept my little garden going this year. I had some casualties out of it, but most everything has done well. Survived the heat. It just hasn't been blooming very much. Whatever that thing is, I forgot what it is. That's an annual anyway, I think. But it died, and then something back here died, and I see that plant over there is kind of like it still needs some water. So, and a couple things over here didn't make it very well. So it just is what it is. And next year we may do something a little bit different, but the butterflies are still here. Hadn't had to mow the grass very much or anything. That's a good thing, I guess. I'm going to have to put one more belt on the lawnmower before I end the season. Looks like the good old top belt for the variator is going again. So anyway, this is this pickup. This is this 86 Chevy. I had it about a year, and if you're following along in my videos, I've done various repairs on this truck. Not so much because it was in terrible shape or anything, but I guess it just had a whole lot of deferred maintenance on it. So I had to redo the cooling system and make some electrical repairs and put new locks in it. Didn't have the door keys. Get some lights working that weren't working. I ran the exhaust out the back. It had turn downs on it, which ended up burning through one of the brake cables, if you can believe that. So overall, though, it's been a good truck. It starts every time, runs pretty good. But the deal with these brakes is, I knew I was having problems because, for one thing, I kept losing fluid out of the back of this master cylinder. And if you look in there, it's low now back there. That's the rear. And you see down here, it's got wetness where it's been leaking down the back of it's leaking out of the back of the master cylinder, I presume, and down the front of the brake booster. So it does that. It's not bad enough for it to drip anywhere, but it does seep out, and that's a leak, of course. But I thought, well, that sure is a lot of brake fluid. I'm going through a lot of brake fluid for just that. So I kept looking around back here for a leak, and I couldn't ever see anything drip. But the other thing that went on with this is every time you put the brakes on, this truck would I'd head that way. So it's not too fun when you got a load on it, or you're trying to get stopped, or somebody stops in front of you and you got to hit the brakes and this thing tries to swap lanes with you. That is not good. So the time is here to address this. So let me get my light. Show you what I found. I noticed when I would move around the driveway with this truck, if I was pulling something around the driveway or whatever, and every time I hit the brakes, I'd hear one of these tires back here lock up. And it wasn't both of them. It was just one side. And so it turned out it was the left side. And that makes sense because it's pulling to the left. So I got in here and looked at this thing. It took me a while to get these drums off. These are the 13-inch drums. This is what they call a semi-floating rear end. You'll know full floating because it has a bearing cap out here. It's got a thing that bolts onto the end of it. And I'm glad this is not a full floating, because full floating is a lot more involved to get the brake drums off. Or, yeah, the brake drums actually. But these just come off like a regular car or truck, light duty truck, I guess. They just slip off. But these didn't slip off because they had been on there so long they were rusted to the axle flange. So I had to start out with a 3-pound mini sledge and graduate up to my 10-pound full-size sledgehammer. So after soaking them and putting a little bit of heat on them, I finally just decided I was finished dealing with it, and I was just going to go to town on it with a sledgehammer. If it broke, I'd just replace whatever I broke. But they didn't break. They, of course, it took some abuse here. But it wasn't the first time either, it doesn't look like. But I got those things off finally, and what I found in here, what's going on with it, caused all this, is, if you'll take a look in here with me, you look at this. I saw this gunk in here. That's all I know to call it. This looks like dust, but it's not dust. It's greasy looking junk, and it's up here on the top and around, and just if some fell out when I took the drum off. It's on the brake shoe down here. And so what all that is the first thing I thought well, the axle seal's probably leaking. But the axle seal is not leaking. It's not that. It's not axle oil. So what it is it turned out to be that the wheel cylinder is leaking. Right? Look right there. There's the wheel cylinder. That thing's going to try to fall. But let's see if I can get in and get my finger in here. But I don't know why there's hair in there, but there is. But this thing is, this has got, don't do it. It's got muck all on it. It's wet. So it's been leaking down on here. And so it's been seeping. I wouldn't say it's been leaking a whole lot, but what's been happening is it's been leaking downward, I guess, down into the bottom where the drum sits here, and then it would be distributed around by the drum every time I put the brakes on. So you can see it's packed in these rivets here, in the rivet holes in the brake shoes. So that's what, oh boy. You all know what these are. I know what they are. If you don't live in the South, you may never see something like this. But these stupid little bugs are what's called stink bugs. Believe it or not, that's what they're called. And I don't know if they're indigenous to other parts of the country, but we have them. We have them here, and you don't really notice them that often until about this time of the year. And this time of the year is when they start trying to find some place to get in that's kind of protected from the elements, I guess, so they can survive the winter. And so they're everywhere. If I run the camera here, you can hear them in the background just flying around. So they're trying to get in the shop building. They're trying to get in my house. They're getting in here. Any place that they think is, a safe area. So, and they're called stink bugs because if you squash one of them, supposedly it stinks, but I don't like them. So anyway, I'm going to take all this apart. I got all that new Delco stuff, which, could you believe this came from China and Mexico? Shock and awe. Can you believe that? I'm not surprised. I'm not at all surprised at that, because It's the way things are going, and there's nobody to blame for this but ourselves. That's the only people we have to blame for this. And so I'm going to take this all apart. I'm going to redo it. I don't like doing brakes at all. I don't like it. It's hard to do them because you have to take all these stupid springs off, but it is what it is. I'm going to start on this side, which is protected from the sun a little bit, and just get into it. So might give you some, yeah, look at this. That's all got this gunk right on it. Yeah, so that's, you can't clean those brake shoes once that's like that. So that's why it was trying to grab. But anyway, I don't really think I'm going to do a how-to on this. Brakes were pretty straightforward. If you've done one, you've done them all. But I did want to explain to you what was going on with this, what I found with it. And I'm not going to have these turn. They weren't shuttering or anything, so I'm just going to clean them up. That's going to be it. So we're going to do that. And let's say one other thing too. I'm a mess in here, but somebody had, yeah, here's one. Somebody put these awful cheapo lugs on this thing. They're not even the kind that's supposed to be on it. There's some kind of chrome looking things. They're supposed to have caps on them, but the caps have been falling off. Get out of here. Get! The caps have been breaking off of them. So, because originally this thing didn't have these hubcaps on it that I put on it, but I guess they thought that looked good or something. But anyway, I got to replace those. And I never knew how hard it was to find lug nuts that were affordable. This dumb AutoZone up here, if you just buy the regular lug nuts, some steel ones that go on it, they charge you $2.99 per lug nut, and this thing has got, I mean, it's just got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lugs on each wheel, so that's 32 lugs per vehicle. So you tell me that I'm going to pay $100 for lug nuts? You're crazy. So again, looking around on the internet, and I think I found some on eBay that work okay. They're the regular type. They're like $17 for a set of 32, so that's pretty affordable. I'll research them and make sure they're good ones. But anyway, this, I don't know. This truck had a series of stuff like that was going on with it. When I got it, I had to take somebody had rigged a fan up here, and it had it just wired in here, and then it had it wired to the truck with no fuse. It was like lamp cord or something. It just run in there with no fuse whatsoever, no circuit breaker, no nothing, just ran in there. And so I had to take all that crap out. And those lug nuts are cheap ass lug nuts. And they had the exhaust just cut off back there, and like I said, it burned one of the brake cables out. So, it just, I hate to say it, but I know this truck belonged to somebody, some young guy that did all this. He stuck stickers all over the inside, which I had to peel off. When you're young, you do stuff like that because you just don't think about it. All you think about is, I want this right now. I want to do this right now. I want to put neat looking lug nuts on. I don't care what they're made out of. I don't care how good they are or how bad they are. I just want to see them on there. That's all I want to see right now. I just want to buy them and put them on and enjoy it. And, same with that wiring job he did for the fan. His idea, he said, well, me put fan on. Me put electric fan on here. It's not a good fan, but me put fan on. Me gonna put fan, me run wire in here. Me stick wire to other wires, and it runs. The fan run. I'm done. I don't care about what happens next. I may not be here when it happens next. But that's, that's how it goes. Because, I don't mean to criticize people, but I've got a couple of subscriptions that, they do some work, the younger folks, and they do some work that's kind of questionable. And I have to say, the time's going to come that you're going to skip out on trying to do a good job of something, and you're going to end up breaking something or burning something up or something if you're not careful. All right, guys, well, let me get into this. I've talked enough, but it's been a while since I've hung out with y'all, and I want to kind of catch up. So we got some other few things coming up in my little world here, and we'll get into that later on. But for now, let's get these brakes fixed, shall we? Okay, I got you guys set up here. Watch me disassemble this. see my camera will hold out the battery. So I've not cleaned this up. I've just left it as it was. I'll clean it after y'all crap out of it. But first thing I want to do is creaking, by the way, is my Harbor Freight step stool thing I used. I'm sitting on. That's what you'll hear here. You'll hear this exact same creaking in Bus Grease Monkey's videos. Also, he has the same one. So sorry, nothing I can do about it. So anyway, we got a series of springs here to take off. Got one here, rod down here. So as I was showing you yesterday, I'm trying to get my light someplace that may help. You use this tool, and this is the end you use. It's just a circular end, and it has a little part on it that'll catch under a spring, so it's real easy to do. You just kind of put it on the post right here, and then get it under there. Sometimes you have to go there a little bit. It doesn't always work easily. Let's say that for it. There we go. I didn't do it right. I'm still not proficient with this, really. Let's try it the other way. There you go. Pop it off. And then another, this is not really a spring here, it's just a rod comes up and it's got a spring attached to it, but I think I took this one off the same way, and like I said, it wasn't easy. You just gonna do the best you can with it. There you go. Alright, and then you can, once you take that one off, you can usually take yourself a set of pliers or something, just kind of pull this last one up. I get it off here, you'll see why I had to do it this way. There we go. This has got a hook right there, normal, like any kind of brake spring. Just kind of put my stuff where it goes. Always, it's a good idea to take pictures of this stuff too if you're not sure. And then this is what this last spring I just took off. This is just what it attaches to here. That's the end goes on the shoe. That's the end that the spring attaches to there. Okay, so now, since we're not really that concerned about, well, I guess we are. I've got one spring down here that goes between the bottoms of the brake shoes, but you can't really take that off with this tool because it's not, really it's got a hook on. I guess it's got like this little part made onto it. That's good for pulling the springs. I guess we'll try that. Let's see if that works any good for us. There we go. Sure did. That thing should come out. There it comes. Whole thing fell. Good. All right. And we take the spring off. See if this thing is seized up or not. Nope. Well, the end is. No, there it goes. Okay. It's alright. It's still cleaned up though. Alright, so you got here the self-adjuster I was telling you about. This thing, it's held on by this brake shoe retainer. So you don't have to worry about taking all that loose if you can see that. That thing. You don't have to worry about taking that off right now. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my tool here for the retainers. Creak, creak, creak. Alright, take those off. Take the nail out from the back. And let's see if this brake shoe's ready to come loose. Yep. So remember me telling you there's a little spring right here. Don't forget that. I neglected to say something about that before, but I think this just pops it. Yeah, there it goes. This little linkage, this whole thing just comes off. And there's that spring. Don't forget that. And then this is the part I was telling you on the other side that's got a little C-clip. You'll have to take that loose for the emergency brake. Which I have to work on this emergency brake because this is the side that needs a cable put on it. You got your equalizing bar. Take that off. Remember the spring on it sits on the shoulder and it goes towards the front of the truck. So if you look at this thing, it's like this is up and down. See how it curves in here and it kind of curves in here. Make sure when you put it in that the curves are facing inward. I guess you can call it that. Don't forget this thing. This is your retainer at the top. I forgot to put it on yesterday on the other side. So, all right, take off the other brake shoe retainer. This thing's a pain. So you can't see what you're doing. What's going on here? Off. Alright, that one, the other shoe off. Now all I got left is to take these little pins out for the wheel cylinder. And then I'll take this out. I already got that loosened back there. I've got one bolt held in it. So that's that. Turn it the right way. Alright, there's a bolt for the wheel cylinder. It should come out now. That's it. Okay, that's everything except for taking this emergency brake lever off of these brake shoes. And as I said, hopefully you can see okay here, but that's just a C-clip. You're gonna have to just take a screwdriver or something and just kind of work it out of there. Let's see if I can do it here when these guys are here. Maybe. Well, it's not awful easy because you gotta. There's a screwdriver on it. Let's see what I can do here without maybe knocking everything askew. Get the tip of the screwdriver on it. I'll have a tool for this, but alright, I just pushed up one end of this thing and it started to, well, it's pretty, I think it's on our side. It wants to work. Did you see that? The sucker just landed right on my shoe. Get out of here. They don't care, do they? Okay, take a little, one more tap. This thing ought to be, there we go. All right, just remove the C-clip. Don't lose that thing. Whatever you do not lose that. Go get another one. And so now, this thing here should be levered out of here. It's probably kind of rusty. Yeah, it is. Wow, let's say it is. I take the plastic end of this screwdriver. Yeah, that doesn't do anything. Oh, gone. It's in there. Ooh. I know what it'll take. Everybody's miracle worker. Yeah, douse it down. You wouldn't believe how many people I see misuse WD-40, for example. There it goes. Our WD-40, the WD in WD-40 stands for water displacing. It never was intended as a lubricant, but people sure as hell use it for one. Alright, that's out. That looks good. That's fine, that'll work. Like Andrew says. That's great. Alright, so I'm going to take my... You believe I hear that noise all day. Because I don't know if you guys know, but I have a job. Part of my job is doing store resets. And so I have to sit on this thing for the bottom shelves. And I hear that all day. And people talk about it too. And somebody say, "You're making a lot of noise over there." Well, alright, guess I am. Alright then, so that's it guys for the disassembly. I gotta put this old Progo on the charger. It's down to 20%. I don't know why they didn't put a better battery in these things. But they didn't. But I'm gonna start cleaning this all up, and this is my doing, 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 doing. So this has got to come out. So we'll have to squeeze in these little tabs with some sort of a tool, and looks like it just should easily slip out of that end. And then over here, watch your head. Slop, 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 slop. Over here, it's put in right there. It goes through a hole in that bracket that's threaded. And you're crazy if you think I'm going to try to unthread that nut off of there after all these years. So I'm just going to, I got another little push-in connector right there, or retainer I guess. I'm just going to take something, go snip, snip, right there. I'm going to cut that cable, or I may just pull out. I think the chances of that are probably none. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, okay. There we go. Easy enough. Alright, so that's that. Alright guys, I'm gonna end this little segment up. I'm gonna wipe it off here. Okay, we'll end this up and we'll bring you back when we're got some things together. I probably will let this thing charge, this camera get nice and charged, and I'll probably do putting it back together things. I know somebody's more than one person's going to want to see how things go back together, so I'll do that for you. See you then. Okay, so we're ready to go back together with these brakes. So I've got you. If you notice a difference in the quality, I apologize, because I had to go back to using Mr. 720p, which is the old camera, because currently it's the only one that's set up to sit on a tripod. So I don't have a lot of space there. You guys are kind of rammed into the corner right here, so you can kind of get a glimpse of what I'm doing. So everything is, to the best of my knowledge, everything's cleaned and ready to go back together. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this new wheel sealer on. So, creak, creak, creak. It's not a hard job. The old one came off easily. So not expecting any drama. Another fine made in China part. Probably find this at your local parts store or online parts seller. As always, make sure that you pay extra for the name brand, because you will get the best Chinese made AC Delco products your money will buy. You know, if you work in retail or wholesale, you learn quickly that names, brand names, are a scam. They're marketing. It's just marketing. Now there are exceptions. If you know for sure who the manufacturer is, then that's one thing. That's good. But because like this thing, it's just a licensed product, which means somebody else made it and they're selling it under AC Delco. And all bets are off, man. So these two bolts that hold this wheel cylinder in, they're 3/8. They're not metric. You don't have to torque them to death or anything. And the nut on the line is also a 3/8. See? Alright, so I'm just going to start the line. We'll bring you back here, but it's not that interesting. I'm sure you've seen somebody put a brake line on before at some point. It's pretty self-explanatory. Again, just tighten it up snug. Okay, got that done. So next thing I want to do at this point, I want to put the two these little pins for the wheel cylinder. Make sure you put them in the right way. They go like that with those two notches facing up and down. So just slide them in so they stay where they're supposed to be. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to lay this. It might seem strange. I'm going to lay this thing up there because I nearly forgot that last time. So I think the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and put in this emergency brake cable. And you want to know how cheap the Delco is? Here's how cheap Delco is. They wouldn't even give you a nut to put on the end of this thing like the other one had. Can you believe that? So anyway, we'll deal with the underside part of this after a while. But right now we're just going to go ahead and put this in, and it just simply comes in through this hole here. Got little pins that hold it in. I'll show you that more clearly so you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, it's got these little clips made onto it, so right here and all around it, so when you push it through this hole in the backing plate, it clicks in. Got where this one was made, either Mexico or China. Yeah, I thought Mr. President was going to fix all that for us. Alright. Alright, that's it. For better or for worse. Okay, so alright. So that dude clicks onto the bottom of this. So you go, oops, you got a washer here, don't lose that. A little wave washer thing goes up here. So this goes, you just put the cable in. Yeah, okay. Make sure I'm right, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Did it again. Clicks in there like that. Right. Pardon me for a second. I'm gonna go look at the other side of her just as a reference to make sure I'm putting this together the right way. Coming in. Okay, got to bend you down for a second so I can look at the. Yep. Okay. That'd be terrible if I thought I had started that camera again and it wasn't going. I'd be kind of irate. So that's correct. That orientation is correct there. It just pulls on the bottom of this. And then, like I said, how does that happen? So, all right. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this, since I've got this thing here handy. I'm gonna go ahead and put that together to the new brake shoe, which I gotta go back over there and get. Okay. Remember, long brake shoe goes on the rear. We're looking at these together. We hold them up. Again, as I stated yesterday, you can tell that one is definitely longer than the other. So the longer one goes in the rear. Longer one goes in the rear. It doesn't sound too good, does it? But anyway, okay, I got to look down here and find my little C-clip. I said make sure not to lose. But I lost it. It's down in here somewhere. There it is. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is that noise? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this pin and I'm going to put just a little bit, not even that much, just a little bit of grease on it so it doesn't freeze up on us. And then I'm going to look and make sure again that I have the right shoe in the rear. Okay. So we're going to put this thing back together like it was. You're just gonna pull it through here and grab your clip. This is right here. Little C-clip. Start getting that put back in there carefully. You need about 3 hands to do this. There we go. All right, that's in. Good. So now, what I do now is I go ahead and ain't looking too good. That spring is too long. Good Lord. Tell you what. Maybe not. Maybe we're all right. I hope. Maybe I'll pull the cable. That thing will. We're looking at this spring down here for this emergency brake. It looks weird, but all right. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take a little bit of just regular old chassis grease, and I'm gonna lightly grease the backing plates that these things ride. It probably makes no difference, but I just like to do that because it is a rubbing surface. So you don't want just a real thin coat. Because you get too much on there, it slings it up on the brake shoe and the brake drums, and then you're right back to square one again. That's what we had going on in the first place. This backing plate over there is it. Right here, it's actually got a little ridge on it from that. Okay, so now this is an aggravating part of this because you got to do about two things at once. So, three things actually. So we have to put on this little damper spring on this plate here. This is for the self-adjuster. And then have to get it put in the place here where it goes in the backing plate. I mean the brake shoe, excuse me. Got a little guide, I guess it is, here. I don't know if you can see anything. Try not to lose anything here. Okay. So we're gonna have to put a nail, what I call a nail, which is the shoe retainer, in through the back plate right there. And then you need to get your spring, retaining spring, and your whatchamacallit together. Yeah, this part of this just sucks. That does not go there. This is holding it there. Alright, so what we got to do now is we got to position this thing in here. Yeah, this brake, hurts the brake. I'm not sure about that. It looks sketchy. So, you gotta feed this stupid nail. If I can see what I was doing here. There we go. Alright, got that up there. Make sure the little spring's below it, out on the brake shoe. And then put that in there where that goes. Wow, well, that's look like that's sitting in there all the way. Hang on a second, I gotta sit on the ground. Right here. Let's see what I'm doing here. Okay. Alright, so now I'm gonna try to make efforts to get this thing secured. Alright, so this thing, now you see why I don't like doing rear brakes. Alright. I want to put our spring and retainer in. You gotta do that one-handed while holding the brake shoes in place. Trying to keep the thing from turning sideways, you piece of crap. There you go. That one's on. Okay. Okay, so that brake is on. That brake shoe's on loosely. They kind of tend to flop around until you get things where they need to be. So, alright, so now we're going to put the other one on. Again, I know I'm repeating myself, but it's important that you do this the right way. The short shoe goes up front. See that? Bastard. You just did that all on your own, didn't you? Alright, I'm going to get my other nail, put it through right here where it goes. This is the nail. It's not a real nail, I call it that. And my retainer and my spring. This side's a lot easier to do normally because it doesn't have all that clap trap on it. So don't forget you got this equalizing bar here that goes in, but we can kind of, let's go ahead and put that in before we don't forget. So we said the spring goes forward, the shoulder, so that means it's going to have to go like that. So just go ahead, it just goes in here behind the brake. Right, just gonna let it sit right there. That's all you can do with it right now. Alright, so your brake shoes just go, you gotta, this thing had a retainer over here for that. A backing retainer. Let's see, it should be in it. There it is. It's in the shoe. Thought I was missing something. This is what I was looking for. Okay. Alright, so put that in. Make sure that's in all the way. Alright, good. Okay, now we can put the shoe here, hopefully. I said this is easier, but really I don't know, because again, you have 2 or 3 things you're trying to do here at one time. There's no way that spring will go like that. If somebody put that on like that, it's backwards. So, okay. Add that in there. Alright, I want to this catch the wheel cylinder stud. Got that thing loosely where it goes. Alright, here comes the fun part again. You bastard. Damn. This thing's kind of a one-shot deal here sometimes. Alright, just kind of stop and make sure everything looks okay. It does, so okay, so now let's go ahead and put in this little transfer link, I call it, right here, that goes between the top of this, where this thing for the self-adjuster is that I was showing you earlier. It's got the spring hooked on itself. Alright, well, it's got a little hook up here, so you just simply, it goes in, this thing goes in like this, where the hook's down here, and the hook, this part comes up over the top, so to speak. It's going to hook on this thing here. Don't forget this. I'm telling you, man, this thing's easy to forget. So all we're going to do is I'm just going to push this forward with my finger to get this thing hooked. You can kind of pull it out a little bit too. Sorry about that. Just hook it on the top of that little hook there. It's pretty self-explanatory. And then this is where this little tool comes into play again, which is pretty handy. It's a little tedious to use, but this little bar end of this, I guess you could call it. Oh, jeez. You're trying. So what you can do is you're gonna get this under the end of this, whatever spring you're using, that you're trying to put on right here, and then you're gonna hook it over that thing there. Trying to let it do what that just did, and then you're gonna, there you go. It's over it, but not very well. So let's see. Flying off of here. There we go. Okay, and then now this is a fairly difficult one to do here. This is the one that goes at the back. This is blue in this case, but it goes in. Remember that the hook, it sits in here like this. So you got a little hole right here. You took a picture beforehand, you'll know where it goes. It just slips in, and then you have to pull it to get over this hook right here I just put on. So this is where this tool comes in again. It's pretty handy. I always used to do this with pliers, but I've tried something new now with this tool. So what I do is I take this hook there and hook it over it. I try to carefully pull this thing. Something is different here. What is different about this? Yeah, okay, that's all right. It doesn't make any difference, I guess, but this may not work on this because the hook's gonna get in the way. So let's try something. You're not gonna be able to hear me here for a little bit. No, didn't say do that. You idiot. I get so irritated at stuff like this. Train coming. There we go. All right, now we got to do the front one. And make sure this equalizer bar, I guess, whatever they call it, is in here the right way. Seems to be. And then now we got our last top spring, which is going to be this one. And it just goes in, and it's going to sit like this. I'll be able to use our hook on this one. Let's see if we can. Well, actually, I don't have to use a hook. I just showed you how to use this. I don't know why I was thinking that. Again, we just use our pry into this. Pry it over. There you go. It wouldn't work on that. That's what it was. It wouldn't work on this one because I didn't have the pin to pry against. So that's it. Okay, you just check, make sure everything's on. Looks good there. So what I got to do now is we got to deal with this. One thing. I'll pull on this cable a little bit. Get this thing. I got to hook this emergency brake cable back up. It fell off here. I was concerned about it. It looked like I have too much spring in here, but we'll see. That's all right. Okay, it's fine. Okay, so now I got to deal with the bottom side of this, and all you got left to do is you have to put the self-adjuster in. And again, that's the self-adjuster. I've already cleaned it and put some anti-seize on it, which I got a little bit extra on it. I'm gonna excess. So so I'll get that off there. But anyway, it turns nice and freely. And I was trying to remember how I did this. I think I put the spring on, that little spring I was showing you. I think it goes. That's bad when you say it. I think it goes. So I'm gonna go in and look, make sure. Okay, so this is the spring in question, and this goes at the very bottom of the brake shoes to hold them in tension. So it was real easy to remember. I just went and looked at it. I didn't remember, but I do now. Is that the long part of this goes over where the teeth are on that self-adjuster, which I hate to do that. So if the self-adjuster goes in like this, then the spring sits like that, so to speak. So I'll just go ahead and put the spring in first. And then it's kind of a pain. You gotta use your pliers again, probably. But it's not very stiff of a spring, so I say it's not. Do this the other way. That damn lever's in the way. Okay. Oh. We get middle-aged, man. You start feeling this in your knees and your legs, and you just can't pop up and down like you used to. Young guys, you can say, "I'm never gonna get like that." Yeah, you will. Just wait and see. You don't even know when it happened. Alright. There we go. Springs on. And then, boy, that looks weird. That spring just looks weird in there, but I'm talking about this e-brake spring. So, alright then, so the last thing I do is I got to get this self-adjuster wedge back in there, and I've got it run down just about as far as it'll go to start with. So you just, I mean, it's self-explanatory where it goes, because this lever, like I said, don't put it in backwards. This one goes, the right side goes with it, teeth toward the back, and it lines up with a slot. There's only one slot in the backing plate, and it lines up with this little lever that actuates it when you back up. So it's almost impossible to get this wrong, so please don't get it wrong. So anyway, and plus somewhere on here they got an R marked on it. I think it may be inside of it, but so anyway, I just put that in there, and all I'm going to do is just work it in there. I'm going to have to spread the shoes out again, so there we go. So, yeah. Get in there. Get in there. Get in there. Yeah. Come on. Okay. Okay. There we go. Did I tell you I can't stand doing drum brakes? All right. So yeah, if you guys, I hope you guys are still running here. Take you out here. Again, I apologize for this old camera, but okay. So this is what you're going to see here. Just make sure you got the top retainer in. Make sure you have your springs put back where they go. Like I said, I advise taking pictures of all this before you take it apart. Make sure this thing's in where it goes, and you know, that, like I said, this thing with a white spring there, you don't have to take that apart. The only thing you got to do there is just, that's where that little I call it a transfer rod or whatever, but it's it works. That's for the, this is assembly right here that comes down that's all. That's your self-adjuster. So what happens is, you know, these shoes move. They're what's called self-energizing shoes, which means the front shoe starts to grab a little bit, I guess it is, and then when it moves this way, I guess what it does, this lever makes this one back here move, and it's what helps eat into the drum over there and stop the thing. But also what happens when it does this, it actuates this thing down here against that wheel, and that wheel turns. As that wheel turns, it spreads the shoes out. So if there's, you know, there's clearance existing between the shoes and the drum, then it'll take up that automatically. That was a thing that came into play several decades ago on drum brakes. It used to be drum brakes weren't self-adjusting. You actually had to adjust them, and you got, like I said, you got like a little. I paused you there, did I? No, I didn't. That's good. This camera's worn out. The thing won't stay open. Anyway, you got a slot right there, and you used to have to come with a little tool periodically and adjust them. You would have to stick the thing in there and work the wheel up a little bit and turn the wheel itself, the tire and the wheel, till it started binding, and then you could go back the other way a little bit. But I don't generally like to, unless there's just a whole lot of clearance in it, I don't generally like to adjust these brakes to begin with, because most of the time when I put them on, I can already hear them scraping just a little bit. The other one did over there on the brake shoes, just a little, and I don't know that they actually need any adjusting. But what I do is I like to let the self-adjuster take up the slack on its own, like it needs to. What I do is I'll get out here when I get the brakes, I'll put it back together, and the master cylinder change, all that. I'll get out here and I will back up in the driveway several times, and every time you do that, if it needs to, like I said, if it needs to adjust, it'll click on its own, and your brakes will adjust themselves. So I don't normally fool adjusting them right off. I know some people swear by it, but I don't. So, okay, then I think the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the brake clean I've got here. I'm going to spray off these shoes. I see there's a little bit of muck on there. I tried to use clean gloves, but I know some folks might say, well, you could have used those old shoes probably. I don't think so. Once they get stuff in them, I don't think you want to deal with it. So these were okay. I don't think that wheel cylinder might have been leaking over here a little bit also, but I don't know if it was. It looked awful scrungy. So, well, that says that is a Delco Moraine wheel cylinder, so that's probably the original. This is probably the original 33-year-old wheel cylinder. So, where do you think those were made at in 1985 or 86? Take a guess. I bet you it wasn't China. Alright then, so I think I'm going to rest for just a minute or three, and then I'm going to take the remains of that cable off and run the new one and get the emergency brakes adjusted, and or at least preliminary adjust them, and then I'll continue with the wheel cylinder, the master cylinder. Do that, then that's where I'll be on the downhill slope. I think this truck sat somewhere a long time. There's a nest in here, a bird's nest. So I think this thing just was not driven for quite a long time. It's neat that it's got shields up there above the exhaust, like it had dual exhaust, or could have come with them. And they put those, I guess that's shields for the bed right there. Alright, let's move on.